WillpowerZone with Will Berry.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Willpower, of course, aka Will. Welcome back to the Willpower Zone. So we're on episode 5, and today we'll get a chance to share a couple things. But first things first, if you haven't got a chance to listen to our last episodes, check it out on Spotify. Also, if you're also on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell. That'll remind you, especially when the next episode comes out. So we're super excited to have you back. So let's jump right into it. So today's topic is a big one, which is the fear of failure. And I really think it is an illusion. And so it gives us some opportunities. And I'm going to share with you 3 of the top things that really gets people really stuck in this fear of failing. And we'll talk about some, other different things and personal topics and as well. I'll give you some examples in order to kind of really drive home this point that we really have to overcome. So what is the fear of failure? Well, the fear of failure is really just the inability to overcome the fear of having to continue to try at something until you get better at it. And people hate and people, of course, despise the fact of feeling as though that things are not going to look perfect right off the bat. And they want, whether especially in sports, you want that perfect golf swing, you want that perfect shot, you want that perfect pass, whatever it is. People want, pretty much overnight results, what took me years and years to perfect for people who are very proficient in their craft and in their field, from actors and, surgeons and doctors and everything else. They had to go years and years of school to get to a certain particular point to where now they make less mistakes. They're not perfect, they make less mistakes. But it went through years of having to trial and error and tweak things. So people don't like that. Of course, we're here in the age of social media and, and a variety of different things and looking on someone else's pathway. And we want to arrive at the point of Jordan year, into his later years, especially going after his 6th championship, or Tom Brady in his last year going after his 7th ring, or Tiger Woods, winning that and amazing Masters in 2019, and a multitude of course accomplishments, and that's where we want to get to. So that fear of failure, you have to understand, the most highly successful people, they are only concerned with one thing, which is, for them, they always have a mindset of being a beginner. So you say, well, wait a minute, but sometimes they've accomplished so much, and how did they stay on top? Well, they always go back to the drawing board. They always go back to day one. And if you really think about it, when you're a child and when you're a baby, the last thing you're thinking about is, oh, well, how am I going to, I'm a beginner at this. I don't know how to walk, and, what am I going to do? And a baby doesn't get into the fear of failure. They don't do that. What do? They work their way to try to stand, and they take things in steps, and they work at it until they eventually start taking their first couple steps. Then those first couple steps turn into more steps, and then all of a sudden, what do you see? Especially all parents and all individuals and mothers from a variety of different ages, fathers, you've all seen exactly what I'm talking about. Once that child starts to arrive at the point where they've got a good set of steps in them, then they're off, and now you're running after them and trying to keep them from getting into stuff. So it's the same exact thing we have to take back. And people who go back to the first day in training camp, or I listened to a variety of different audiobooks, and David Goggins talking about that day one attitude, and a variety of different people talk about that. And when you win after the season, everything's all said and done, you're back at square one, back at the drawing board of training and honing your craft and getting the team together. So it's in many cases, you're as good as the last accomplishment and the last great thing that you did. After that, then people are kind of like, okay, when's the next one that you're going to win? So that's where you have to go back to the proverbial like day one attitude, when it was your first day on the job, whether it's your first day, in your locker room and everything else. It's the same type of thing. So that's where fear of failure really comes from. It's just not wanting to be a beginner. And being a beginner in many cases is a beautiful thing, because there's really nothing that you know yet that's going to taint your opportunity to progress. And that's the key thing, especially when it comes to the fear of failure and that day one attitude, is progress. If you make progress 1% better each and every day, after a whole year, you'll be a whole lot further. The second thing, also too, especially with the fear of failure, it's the simple fact that, it never looks right. It never feels right. But if you take the time to push past that, the great thing is that the biggest signs of growth and the amazing things that can come from that. So many times people stop at that point due to the simple fact that because they don't like the optics, they're then, going to worry about, what people are going to say. It's like, oh, that one didn't come out right. Oh, that wasn't my best effort, or whatever it may be. But a lot of times, guess what? Highly successful people, they realize is saying it's a matter of speed and getting things done. Now, eventually, you have to work out the reps. You know that you don't become a champion with one rep, throwing one pass, that one golf swing that you hit just correctly. No, you have to do it consistently, day in and day out, and working at it, putting the hours and reps into it before anybody gets into the gym. I can attest to this in my own personal example. When I first, one was getting back into shape, and I really had a goal eventually, back in 2020 or so. I had a goal of really saying, man, I want to step on stage. I want to do my first bodybuilding show. And it was, pretty much a year in the making. I took, 2019 to really hone in and really work hard to really drop the weight. And then, 2020 then to really start to hone in on practicing and posing and doing all these things. It was not easy. And I'm here to tell you, when you take the time to actually put the drive and effort into something. But in many cases, there's so many times I look back at old videos of me, posing and doing all these different things. It was, isn't too pleasing to the eye, but I enjoyed it because at the end of the day, these are the reps I had to take, especially like the reps I had to take in the gym and all the time and effort I had to put into cardio in order to make sure to, get down to a perfect particular point as far as conditioning. So it was so important. And the thing is that you're rewarded for the hours and the time which no one sees. And that is where the bread and butter of really being able to take things to the next level. With the most successful people, they preach this all the time, but people like myself or many others, maybe at first glance didn't want to take them seriously, and then eventually, in due time, we realized there was a lot to it. And the last and final thing, especially when it comes to the fear of failure, is I think there's also a deep-rooted saying, if I do all this, and I think it's more so getting caught up in the destination, and too much, but not enjoying the journey to get there. And I think if you do more of getting immersed into the journey and more so the person that you're becoming, then it's going to really take things off for you. And you're not going to really more so start to say, well, I have to get to a goal number as far as my weight, or I've got to get to a certain particular point so I can try out for this, or, I've got to get to a certain dollar amount in terms of income and everything. This is all great and fine, and this is all necessary, and having goals and benchmarks to reach. But you want to be able to take the time to be able to enjoy and kind of smell the roses and be able to get a chance to really go after the person that you're becoming. And that person that you're becoming is going to be a lot more powerful than the destination. Because it's like, when you graduate from, college, or when you, get that big promotion or whatever it may be, now you've arrived. Now, what comes next? There are always people who are going to say, oh, what comes next? What's the next thing? So you really have to kind of always start to look at things as saying, what am I really fearful of? And not get too caught up into, oh, am I going to arrive at that destination? Because sometimes, whether it's not guaranteed or it's the simple fact that basically the timing of it, all you can control is what you can control, which is the daily things that you're doing. And being able to take the time and continue to progress thereafter. So I hope this, was able to kind of shed some light on helping, someone out there, helping you to be able to get over that fear of failure and willing to try something new, or willing to go after something that maybe you put on the shelf. Take that chance on yourself. Take the risk. Trust me, you will be more than happy that you did that. So if you enjoyed this episode, check us out on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe. If you're also on YouTube, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as well as also hit that bell, because when the next episode comes out, you'll be notified. So I'm excited, closing things out as far as for the Willpower Zone for episode 5 for failure. Go through it. I hope you got some really good points out of today. But I will see you again for the next episode. Here I'm out on the Willpower Zone.